Hello and welcome to the Playtime with Rufus podcast with me, Mario Radinger. Have you ever wanted to work with higher dimensional beings yourself? Then why not join my Transformative Soul Journeys Quantum Hypnosis training? In 4 clear, easy-to-follow modules, you will learn how to guide deep explorations filled with clarity, insight, and guidance for others. For more information, visit thesouljourneys.com. And this is episode 17 of Playtime with Rufus, a spiritual and metaphysical podcast unlike any other. I'm your host, Mario, and as always, I'm so happy you're here with Rufus, Émilie, and me as we continue to uncover what it means to be a human avatar on Earth. And today, we continue our exploration of the outside influences we encounter in this very special playtime. In the second part, the pace shifts noticeably as the mother returns, which is always a treat. This is also tied to a shift in focus because we move from objects and environments into something far more intimate and vulnerable: relationships. If everything around us shapes our earthian experience, then the people closest to us certainly play an important role. As you learn today, they are in fact powerful energetic counterparts in our evolution. To help us understand the dynamics at play here, Rufus breaks down what actually happens in energetic exchanges between human beings. What does giving and taking really mean in relationships? Why do certain family dynamics feel draining while others feel empowering? And a super important question for many of us: how do boundaries function energetically, not just emotionally or mentally? We also dive into early life circumstances and the role they play in the game. If you've ever wondered why you experience certain challenges in your childhood, you will most likely have a better idea after this episode. Rufus challenges the conventional view of trauma and offers a perspective that may feel confronting to some, yet deeply liberating to others. I certainly know it was the latter for me. In this context, we discuss questions like, how can one heal from trauma without denying what happened? Can the past be rewritten? And if so, how does it work? And how do frequencies like acceptance and bravery become energetic turning points in our life? Well, you'll find out today. This episode is profound, layered, and deep. It is also deeply empowering, because if outside influences shape us, then understanding them gives us back choice and power in this roller coaster of a playtime we're all in together. If you're enjoying Playtime with Rufus, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, so the various algorithms of the podcast world can help these conversations reach as many avatars as possible. And now, take a deep breath, open your mind and heart, and enjoy this next illuminating step into the mechanics of the Earth game. This is episode 17 of Playtime with Rufus, where higher wisdom meets human curiosity. And now I would like to ask Rufus to integrate themselves into the body so we can speak to each other again. May I speak to Rufus again, please?
Yeah,
Thank you so much, and welcome.
thank you, Mario.
Of course. Take your time and let me know when you're ready.
It's okay to proceed.
All right. Last time you mentioned you had some difficulties entering the body because of the energetic situation.
In the lower abdomen parts of our host, Emily.
Say that again, please.
because of the energetical activity that was happening in the lower part of the abdomen of our host, Emily.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
I believe the situation is different today. Is there anything you would like Emily to know about that change?
Change is not all the time a bad situation. Change requires adjustment. Change requires faith. Change requires somehow freedom to accept and embrace what is no longer known. Change is also a good opportunity for growth. In this situation, as unpleasant as this might be to our host, it is also a good opportunity to be just a little closer to her own, just a little more challenging to assert her faith in what she is unable to control. Desire is one thing, manifesting another, being is a third. Sometimes one can desire, one can manifest, but one cannot be at the moment precisely, and therefore changes need to be brought to the system in motion, which is okay. It is neither wrong or right. It is neither good or bad. It just is what is. And in this situation, it is a good opportunity for Emily to just rely on faith and just trust that if she is embarking again on this conceiving journey, she might be able to control the narrative at some point in terms of making sure that her body is ready to receive and conceive, take action in manifesting this conception, but the rest needs to be understood that it is clearly out of her control. This is how life goes. Some part of it can be controlled, some part of it can be directed, and some part of it is completely out of reach because it is starting to touch into other players' parts. And therefore, she can only control her own and accept the rules of others.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Are there any recommendations, suggestions, or is there any advice that you would like to share with Emily here today before we move on?
She is taking on what we like to call higher role in terms of just minding and caring about what is indeed in her control, meaning the nesting, the preparation of the body in order to receive, in order to conceive. This is pretty much all she can do at the time, taking actions in order to better prepare the body that she is in in order for it to receive others. If she is able to do this, the rest is relying on faith and accepting whatever is to come or not to her.
Very well. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Apart from that experience, she has been going through a couple of additional experiences. The cut in her finger, and right now, the cold or infection. Is there anything you would like her to know about these experiences?
We could emphasize what she already understood, as those events only applied to her and happened when she was in what you call rush, when she was somehow pushing through life a little too fast with an unadjusted intensity for the actions that she was actually taking. Sometimes going through life required adjusting the intensity you are putting in your so-called movement and in your routine or in your daily motion. For Emily, apparently, the message as she probably got it, because we have a sense that she is indeed aware it was delivered properly, even though uncomfortable for her. Basically, what is to be known of this and what is to be taken from all the little disagreement, if we may say, is that she is in the need of slowing down, in the need of taking things less frenetically, less, let's say, rushingly, if we may use that term, and just accepting to move a little slower through her daily motion, emotions, experiences. She tends to, let's say, panic or accelerate or all of a sudden push a little too brutally or a little too hard into what she is wanting to achieve. But sometimes this is not a success to operate this way. Sometimes taking things slowly, taking the time to absorb every little path that leads to the goal is what needs to be done in order to be successful at what we are trying to achieve. All those disagreements happen in a moment where she could attest she was moving too fast. She was in a hurry. She was putting too much intensity compared to the task that was at stake. And in order to make this clear, she chose to attract this disagreement. So the message could be conveyed properly in a way that she is no longer able to ignore. Because, like you are aware now, it did breach into probably every layers of her being. Therefore, she is now fully aware of what needs to be understood. which is slow down. It is not good to always run, chase, move fast through life. Everything happens in due time. There is so much that can be done, and at one point, if one can no longer do what needs to be done properly, one needs to slow down. And it is okay that it will take more of your day in order to tackle something that one wished to be over with in a minute. Sometimes it is needed just because the way the thing will be done rushing will not be as effective and will be more damaging to the one in question compared to if it was done slower or with less intensity. And we are speaking of frenetic intensity, sporadic intensity, rushing, or even sometimes nervous intensity.
Thank you for the explanation.
You are welcome.
Does this collide with her plans for the next couple of days? As you probably know, she's going on a trip and also helping a move, if I remember correctly. How can she integrate your suggestion into those plans?
She now recognizes and knows when she is in the need of slowing down because little disagreements will continue to happen if she is not. Therefore, there is absolutely no problematic going through the motion of the initial plan if she is accepting to go through this motion with a certain pace that would probably not be the usual known pace that she uses. Therefore, no problem at all going on with the plans, but making sure that when everything is screaming at her, slow down, she actually does.
Very well. I will make sure to convey your message to her after this.
Thank you.
Regarding her energy levels, she mentioned just before that she feels a bit drained due to, I guess, the mechanisms taking place in the body at
Yeah.
this time. Is there anything we can do here today to give her a boost?
Oh, yes. We could always give her a boost. The real question is there anything she is ready today to receive and accept? Because boost can be given many, many times in many, many ways, again and again and again. But if Emily or anyone is actually constantly drawing and draining that boost because of too much intensity or too much energy fuel being used daily, then it's a never ending story. We could give as much energy as we could, and if she keeps on using all of it constantly without sparing any for herself and recharging or repairing what needs to be done as such, then she will continue to feel depleted or emptied out or exhausted. So it is a team effort on both ends, her higher part and her human side as well. We could give what she needs to receive with caution and not abuse the energy that is implemented and offered to her because the level is so high and she knows it. She likes to be greedy with it and use a big chunk for everything because, again, she wants to move fast through her experiment because that way she believes she would experience more. This is not accurate at all. Sometimes less is more.
We understand. I would like to ask you in her name to please initiate the boost, and I will make sure that she receives the additional information you just conveyed.
All right, then. We shall do that.
Would it be appropriate to continue speaking while it is taking place?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for diving with me into those personal topics and issues. And if there's nothing else you would like to add at this point, let us now dive back into the material.
Yes, we could add that this was given to her, but also works for many, as this is one example on how some of you like to play in this life and move too fast or want too much in a blink of an eye, which requires too much energy that at one point you will not have any more to place somewhere else that is needed.
Yes, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners will be able to relate to this.
Good.
I can as well.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
So thank you for being so generous with your advice.
You're very welcome.
All right. Let us now dive back into the material.
Yeah.
Last week, I believe you initially wanted to come through, but then because of the energetic circumstances, another aspect of Rufus took over, so to speak.
Correct.
The topic last time that we embarked on was the third aspect of the 5 that we defined at the beginning of this project, outside influence. And we started talking about clothing,
Yeah.
continued to talk about the home
Yeah.
of the avatar, and then moved on to family and relationships. And this is what we wanted to continue with today.
Perfect.
Where would you like to start here? I believe we talked about the importance of adjusting social environments when necessary, correct?
Correct. Yes. This could actually relate to what we just talked about in terms of energy reserve or energy backup tank, if we may say, because in order for one to be completely at peace within and therefore seek a better alignment, the family, or let's say people surrounding that person, whether it's colleague, stranger, family, friends, lover, kids, it really doesn't matter. It is still the same rules played at different level of impact. But basically, this is taking from that energy tank. Therefore, because you as humans need energy in order to better your alignment to self. If your tank is emptied by what you give to others or what you let others take from you, you will no longer be able to correctly align. Therefore, it is very important to be able to socially feel when it's needed to remove yourself from a relationship or an interaction or just a physical situation where you are placed with other individuals that are actually taking from your tank more than they can bring to it, if that makes sense.
It does.
So this is actually very important for an avatar to understand because everything is connected. You also somehow have an exchange of energy, meaning you take and you give to your fellows avatar as well. The same way you take and you give to pretty much everything else in this playtime. Therefore, if one would like to better align with self, it needs to install a balance between the give and take of that, let's say, energy tank we're talking about. And this is where it is very delicate, a thin line, if we may say, as this balance can easily shift from one side to the other. One side will be beneficial because you will be probably taking more. So you would feel that you are indeed filled up with energy and that you are fulfilled and that you are better aligning. The other one would feel the opposite. But we would like to mention that nor one or the other is allowing you to really align with self. The balance of both being somehow respected is what will allow you to better align. You need to give and you need to take. You need to offer and you need to receive. In all of your relationships, no matter what the nature of it is. This is what will really allow you as an avatar to line up or better be in alignment with self, meaning at a different level with your higher self, with your player self. Does this make sense or resonate to you in a way that is understood?
Yes, it does. Could you still give an example for the giving and taking of energy in a relationship?
Yes, of course. Let's say you are in a partnership and for X amount of time, your partner is in heavy need of comfort, of listening, of, let's say, reinforcing their self confidence. You will be therefore taking energy and time on your end to give them love, attention, devoted ear, comfort. You will basically be an empath with them for the time that is needed. This will be you giving and them taking. But if you are embarking on this exchange and also receiving what they are basically in a need of and use it to better understand how the partner is functioning, to better notice and decode their attitude and their SOS expression, let's say, then you will be not only giving, but taking from the situation because it will give you tools to better serve other relationship with yourself or with others. If you are able to, when you think you're only giving, receive also in terms of observing how you are able to be there for your partner. You are able to be the good listener, to be the comforter, to be the lover, to be there every time they need you. If you can observe yourself doing this and notice that you raise to the occasion, that you are indeed able to do this, and that somehow them taking from you is also giving you an opportunity to see yourself from a different perspective and to be happy and pleased with what you are able to give. This will be a good way to also take in a giving situation. This will restore the balance of giving and taking because you will no longer just see yourself as giving or being taken from, but you will be able to notice that this exchange, even if at first it feels one directional, it is indeed a two-way street where you can feed your own self and take from what you give and apply it in order to restore the balance. Does it make sense, or do you need us to better illustrate?
I believe what I take from this is that it depends on the participants and their intention, whether giving or taking or both is taking place.
Yes, it's always a matter of perception. You could take two avatars in the exact same situation at different times. Let's say Avatar B is in the need of comfort and is going to take from Avatar A, who is going to give. If Avatar A is only seeing this situation as I'm giving and giving and giving, Avatar A will be indeed ripped off energy and will not be in balance. Now, same situation, same avatar. Avatar A is aware that it's giving, and Avatar B is aware that it's taking. But Avatar A is also able to see the beauty in what it's giving, is able to receive somehow the loving energy or the caring energy that is sending away, and the fact that is impacting the other in a beautiful manner should be boomeranging, if we may say, or should be sent right back at this avatar A, that would therefore be able to notice and receive what they just sent out. Does that make sense?
It does. So the energetic state of the two avatar A's would be completely different at the
Yeah.
end of it.
Yes, because in the first situation, Avatar A that is constantly giving at one point will be so drained and so tired of feeling like this is a one-way situation that it could build resentment, anger, fatigue, tiredness of constantly being the one doing more, giving more. Yes.
Right.
But in the other situation, if Avatar A is able to see that it's a beautiful thing, that they are indeed able to offer the support Avatar B is needing, and to see how the impact of their devotion is importantly affecting Avatar B, to see how strong they are to be able to send that energy away and keep on being in a loving situation, and to see that somehow that Avatar B is receiving, feeling better, and counting on them. This is already giving back, because it would mean that Avatar A is a reliable partner, a loving partner, a strong enough partner that is able to give infinitely. And therefore, Avatar A will be able to see this aspect of themselves. And this will be the boomerang effect of putting out something that is sent right back at you if you are able to take it. And the balance will be restored, because this avatar will never be tired of giving, because it will see how beautiful the impact is, and it will receive that shape or essence of love that would also transmute into self-love, because they will be pleased with what they are able to offer. They will be pleased with the fact that they can send energy that will come right back at them. And the balance will be restored in terms of relationship exchange in what could have been taken as a one only direction. Does that make sense?
It does.
It is indeed harder to achieve when you are in the midst of it. But since we are talking on how better align with self, this was never said to be an easy way. This was never said to be an easy goal to achieve. So it is something that requires perception to be brought to a new light, that requires opening and broadening your spectrum, that requires you to be able to notice subtleties instead of just what the obvious is. But if one is able to do so, it will be such a strong ability to stay aligned with self, at least as much as possible, giving the, let's say, proper circumstances. Because let's not forget that even if Avatar A is indeed able to see the boomerang effect and receive what they just send right back out, there will be times where their own energy will be taken away on other fronts, and seeing the boomerang effect might be more difficult. So it's not because Avatar A is able to restore balance at times that it will be able to always restore that same balance. And it's okay to not be able to at times. The point is, there is a need to be aware, as you call it, of being in balance constantly with what goes out and what comes in, even when one's feel that it's a one direction situation. There is always something to be taken or to be received or to be coming back at you. Because if you understood everything that was given to you in terms of information being received, digested, integrated, and sent right back, interactions to be constantly at stake, and VE to be constantly operating in this vibrational realm, then you would understand why in a relationship, disregarding of the nature of this relationship, you will be constantly, whether you're avatar A or B, receiving information, digesting, integrating, sending right back, and the other will be constantly receiving what is sent back right away on their VE, and therefore able to receive information, digest, integrate, and send right back. And this is an infinite game that is now played between the two. Now, if you bring your awareness on what you are able to bring back in and bring back out, and keep a balance of, we want to say, matching strength in terms of vibration. It doesn't have to be the same frequency, but it has to be the same level of strength, and you're able to notice it. This is how you are able to maintain your own balance within every little interactions you're having. And even the day you are unable to do so, knowing and accepting that today you are not in a place that allows you to have a balanced exchange. If you are aware and if you are accepting of that, you are already a little closer to be in alignment. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes, I believe this is an excellent point to make.
Good.
Very helpful information. And I also feel it's very empowering to know that you're always able to control is maybe the wrong word, but to influence your own energetic household. You're not
Yeah,
depending on the other avatar to do that. You can just do it in your thinking.
absolutely. The way the humans have been designed is powerful, never powerless, meaning each and every one has a power beyond belief or expectation. It is just a manner of applying it and finding tools and ways to use it in order to serve your experience here. But you can change your narrative even within an exchange that seems to be only one directional. You are indeed to right away transmute it and shape it in a two-way street in the blink of an eye. This is applicable to everything that you goes through within this playtime.
Excellent. May I ask a question?
You may.
There are two parts to this question. One, could you please give an example of Avatar B in the scenario we already explored? An example of what giving back from the part of Avatar B would look like. Maybe you already have, but I don't remember. And the second part is the decision of Avatar B to give back. Is this influencing Avatar A in some way, or is it depending on whether Avatar A decides to receive something back that has an influence on their energy?
Both are correct. Let us start with an example of Avatar B giving back.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's say Avatar B is in a need of comfort and it's going to Avatar A and is draining energy and love from Avatar A. Yes.
Yes.
But when Avatar B received all this love, somehow it brings a lot more energy to Avatar B. It brings comfort. It brings the feel that is not alone, that is being supported, that is being loved. And therefore, it automatically changes the vibrational aspect in which Avatar B is operating at the time. What Avatar B is going to send back is therefore a changed code, if we may say, or a changed vibrational aspect of themselves. Maybe even emotionally, they will be more appeased or more at peace. Maybe they will be verbal about it and mention, "Thank you for having my back. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being such a good listener. Thank you for being supportive and loving me." Maybe they will be physical about it and hug Avatar A or shake their hand, or maybe they will be just mental about it and have a complete different aspect from now on how they're gonna carry themselves. Maybe they will be just sending everything back in silence, but you see how that will be sent back to Avatar A, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Now, of course, in terms of the second part of your question, Avatar B and Avatar A are influencing each other. This is why we say it's a never ending game,
Mm.
because everything by design is constantly an influence to everything else. And therefore, everybody is a constant influence to everybody else and everything else as well. In that situation, what would be powerful for each avatar is what is sent back, let's say from Avatar B, can be received or not from Avatar A and can transmute or transform or reshape in terms of what is taken. Remember, information that is put out needs to be received, but then take in, digest it, integrate it, and put it right back. And in function of who or what received that information and the circumstances of that being at the time, this might be translated somehow, if we may say, into their own set of interpretation. Therefore, what Avatar B will send will influence Avatar A for sure, but Avatar A will have the full power of making whatever they want out of this information, whatever their perspective of it might be, whether it is the same, meaning in synchronicity with Avatar B, or whether it is taken slightly differently. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm. Yeah, there's no other question at this time.
Okay.
We talked about the giving and taking, the need to adjust the social surroundings if necessary. Is there anything else that would be helpful to know regarding family, interaction, and dynamics in families?
Yes. Families are indeed, or can be, a little trickier than any other relationships, just because somehow family are bound with each other from one aspect of this playtime that is blood, and that is therefore sharing vessels, pieces within each other. We are maybe not explaining correctly, but families, of course, are made of being like yourself, like Émilie, incarnated into this vessel, correct? But also part of them have been created within the game. So part of them is a vessel created from another vessel, and therefore there is a game bond between them, if we may say. Do you understand the picture we're trying to draw?
Yes, I believe so. We have a
Okay.
saying that blood is thicker than water.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
a good one. Although we could disagree, but let's say for the sake of it, and from what we understood, you're putting behind that saying,
Yes.
we could go with it. So yes, family might be a little trickier and special to deal with because you have that extra exchange from the get-go. And therefore, you are unable to distance or to put boundaries or to remove yourself or to have enough backup in your perspective in order to restore balance in your exchange. So this might be a little more difficult for an avatar to adjust what comes in and out in terms of relationship exchange when it comes to family. But it works the same anyway. Meaning, let's say, a father and a son, for example. The father will be given and taken from the son, vice versa. If at one point one of them notice that this exchange is turning toxic or is somehow putting one of them at a discomfort and taking them further from aligning with self and therefore with their player self, and this avatar is able somehow to take action and to adjust the situation, then good for them. That means they are able to somehow go above the bond of the vessels and above the coating that is tightening them up and has enough power in their other layer in order to know how to distance themselves, even if they are still attached somehow. And this is a beautiful thing to be done, but it's also very difficult. It requires such an inner strength already. It requires somehow an alignment to self already that will go above that vessel link, if we may say. But it works the same. You will just have one more obstacle, if we may use, to tackle in order to restore the balance. Because in a relationship with a friend, yes, your emotional layer is involved, of course, but you don't have the vessel layer, you don't have the physical layer involved. In a family matter, let's say son and father, like we used, they do share somehow a physical bond. Therefore, even if emotionally they are able to restore balance in what's given or not, or if balance cannot be restored, detach emotionally from their connection or set boundaries between, the fact that their vessels are connected will be a little more difficult because this connection cannot be destroyed. This connection cannot be altered. This connection will be needed to be taken into consideration. There is indeed an indestructible bond between them that is linked to their physicality, that is linked to their what we call vessels. But disregarding of this, they are still able to recognize when it is not serving them properly, and therefore accepting that, okay, we do share a bond. I am your son or I am your father, and this will always be this way. Therefore, we will always have a connection no matter what. But we decide at the moment that we can no longer keep on going into that exchange. So either we are able to transmute it on some other layer of ourselves, either we are able to change our own narrative and restore balance in what we feel is giving and taken. And if we are not, we can simply decide not to interact anymore. And yes, we will still always feel somehow that connection because of our vessel link, but we will deliberately choose not to be part of exchanging any further of ourselves with each other because we agreed with ourselves that it was not serving us. Does that make sense?
It does.
So there is something that unfortunately cannot be broken in this playtime. It's what we call the vessel linked. Because somehow, you as an avatar, especially when you are connected to your higher self, especially when you are in the way of aligning with yourself, you would feel and recognize that connection. And you would understand that it is not to be broken, no matter what you try to do. This will always be at stake. But it's not because it is there that you cannot operate around it, that you cannot operate with it, integrating that information that there is a part of you as the son or as the dad that cannot be transmuted or broken or exchanged or transformed or however. It cannot be removed from this game because it has been created within the game. But everything around it that will make an interaction can be shifted. And this part, the fact that you're able to accept that there is nothing that can be done about it, this is already transmuting it somehow.
I see. That makes sense. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be able to relate to that. I'm sure that a lot of listeners can also relate to the fact that healthy boundaries or an ideal exchange of giving and taking on an energetic level is a big problem in families, especially between parents and their offspring.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Most of the time, let's say, the newer generation is more capable somehow of transmuting than the older, just because they are created from the older version, and therefore they are being fed with the tools already acquired by the older and building new ones on top of it. So usually what you call the offspring or what we call the newer generation of those avatar will be more capable, or at least it will come to them a little more easily to transmute or to restore balance in those exchanges.
Would it be correct to say that because of the experiences that they've had with their parents, there is also born a desire to evolve in some way?
Evolve from the game for yourself and evolve from what you're coming through.
Yes.
Okay. So each and every one of you had maybe two level of evolution, if you may say. You want to evolve as a player within the avatar, but you also want to evolve as an avatar within an avatar. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes. You can see now why this game is so amazing.
Mm-hmm. In my experience, due to the type of work I do, I encounter a lot of avatars who have experienced trauma, especially in their early years. And it's very often connected to their parents and unhealthy boundaries or boundaries that were crossed. either on a physical level or emotional level. Can you speak about this? Is this a natural aspect of our game? Is it supposed to be that way? And what effect does it have on the new generations coming in and going through that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's answer the supposed to be that way. Remember, this game is drawn with free will. Therefore, somehow, nothing is supposed to be in a way. Everything is just being in a way or another because of that implementation of free will. We are not able to suppose that one is going to play a game this way or another. We could hope or we could somehow wish that this is how it's going to unfold. But this is really not up to any of us, but the one in charge of their free will. And the second part of your question, remember, when you're coming into this game, you're coming with an intention of experiencing certain attributes, certain layers of existence. And therefore, it requires sometimes predisposition or it requires circumstances in order to trigger, let's say, a code or a vibrations that will match your intention to give you the better chance at developing and at experiencing what you came for. Then, when you choose to come, you also choose your environment that you're coming in to be loaded, if we may say, with circumstances that would match from the get-go what you're trying to experience in order to facilitate you to maintain this alignment and keep on having the experience you wanted to have. Yes?
Right. So
a lot of the trauma you might encounter coming from early on in an avatar lives and coming from the environment or the family, the nest they were put into has also something to do with triggering the set of informations that were needed in order for them to better achieve what their intention was. Sometimes it has a completely opposite effect just because there is an unknown value, meaning that even if a player has been given everything they need when they're coming into an avatar body to trigger the correct codes in order to play the experience they wanted to have, because of the unknown value of one free will and because of the connections to everything, therefore, to every other free will, and the fact that nobody can predict or control how the interaction of two and more free will happen with the given set of information, it is very difficult to suppose to be a certain way. Do you understand?
I do.
Yes. So to answer your question, sometimes the set of informations given has been untouched and free will has been expressing into the same direction of the presets, let's say, and therefore everything the avatars at stake are going through is meant to be in order to allow them to experience what they came to experience. But other time, because of free will involved from the avatar experiencing, but also from other avatars connected to this one, the presets put in place has been completely destroyed and transmuted and sometimes inverted So therefore, what is coming out of it is completely playing against what the player came through experience. And if that player within the avatar is unable to connect with self on a higher level, they might play this game entirely 180 from what they came to experience. But if within their own game, during their evolution in the game, they are able to somehow connect and embrace the fact that they are restoring balance within self in order to be closer to their alignment, they might at one point be able to recognize that, oh, this is a complete mess up. This is completely the opposite of what we wanted to experience. We took the wrong way. We misinterpreted stuff, or maybe others around us has led a game in a way that is not suiting us. And therefore, we're going to adjust it at one point. So you see, there's different way one game can happen. And also it is never, as you say, set in stone, meaning you can have a preset that is being followed and at one point is doing it upside down and now is going a completely different direction. And at another point, the avatar in question might just awaken and see how they can better align with self and go back into what their intention was. And at one point, they might be completely out of balance, out of energy because of something traumatic. And they might go back in another direction. And you can see how it could evolve completely all over the place, especially because everything is in interaction with each other. And there is this unknown value that is free will. And also, we could add the bond that is created within the game.
Right.
So it's difficult to give you a proper answer to this question, and there could be many. You see,
Yes, I see. It was still an excellent answer.
good. Then we're glad a non-answer could be an excellent answer.
Do you have a recommendation for an avatar that is maybe listening to this right now and they went through trauma in their childhood connected to their parents? Boundaries were crossed and they've been carrying a lot of heavy vibration, heavy emotions because of it, maybe anger or guilt or shame. What would be your recommendation for an avatar like that who decides, I would like to integrate this. I would like to adjust my position in this dynamic. I want to heal.
Yeah. Well, we could answer this with a simple sentence, but we are aware that is way more complicated when you are experiencing it. So we're going to try not to offend anyone with just a simple sentence. Basically, if one is having such a traumatic experience that is going to code for the rest of their life, but at one crossroad, they are able to tell themselves, I no longer want to carry the energetic value of this trauma, of this experience, because I'm aware it's not serving me. They are already halfway there. Because the next step will be accepting that it happened, accepting that this cannot be changed as a fact. The factual essence of it already happened because you're registered under time in your playtime. This cannot be undone. Yes. So therefore, you have two options now that you're able to recognize it is something that is weighing on you and that you no longer want to carry. You have either the strength and the ability to accept that the fact happened and to decide that you're going to override it completely and start a new page, meaning that on the day you recognize this happened, I accept that it happened. I accept the way it happened. And I decide today that I am free of it. That's one option, which is extremely hard to do, especially if the trauma is heavy and especially if you're still interacting with the antagonist of the trauma. Or you have the possibility to somehow rewrite the past, not the fact, but your perception of it. Meaning, if you're not able to accept that it happened and that it cannot be changed and to let it go and basically shade this skin to go into a new one, then maybe try to look at it from a different perspective. If you are ready for it, relieve the fact, relieve the trauma, but maybe try this time to not position yourself from the same place you had in the trauma. Try to leave it either from an outsider, an observer, or from an other antagonist of the trauma. Try to find a perspective of it that would somehow rewrite it in a way that is slightly different from what you remember leaving. If you're able to do that, somehow it will broaden your spectrum of receiving information from a fact that already happened. And therefore, you're going to be able to digest, integrate, and put back a different set of information that will not only rewrite the trauma as you knew it, but that will also rewrite what's to come because you're putting back different set of information. And when we are saying this, we are aware that it is very easy to say while not in the experiment of it. It is very difficult to apply and to even start to trigger while you are the one in the experiment of it. So we are saying this with a lot of love and respect from all of the soul out there going to trauma within the Earthian playtime, willing, ready to transmute it in order to change their narrative. We have an immense respect to those avatars, and we are fully aware of the difficulty, but unfortunately, there is not that many options because you're registered by time. It needs to be somehow either let go of completely, either rewrote. And in order to rewrite the past, the only thing an Earthian can do because of the time rule is to find a new perspective within the fact. Does that make sense?
It does. Could you give an example for a new perspective?
Yes. Okay. We're going to take a very easy and soft one, just so we don't go into deep and heavy load. Yeah?
Yes.
Let's say you're a parent and you have a child, and your child is at one point doing something that scares you, that is very dangerous for their health. And your response as an adult is a big spank or a big slap in the face. You as an adult might be somehow traumatized because you hit your kid. Your kid, on the other end, might be traumatized because they've been hit and they are now seeing the parent maybe as a violent parent. Maybe the parent is seeing themselves as a violent parent. Maybe this is gonna code for the next years to come into both avatars, the parent and the kid. And the exchange within the two might be altered by this gesture. Well, at one point, let's say the child carries a difficulty with authority because it is associated with violence. And at one point of their evolution, they realize that they associated authority with violence and they're having issues with their relationship with the parents because of that traumatic event. We're going to take the kid's perspective first.
Right.
Either the kid decide that the event happened, that they did get hit, and that they're going to let go of it because they cannot change it. And they're going to start a brand new relationship, forgiving or accepting that it happened and moving forward. Either they are not really able to do that and they need to rewrite it. Then maybe what they will do is put themselves into the parent's position and see, okay, I'm going to revert the situation. I'm the parent. This is my kid. He is indeed putting himself in danger. I am afraid. The first thing that I find that would stop the action in order for the danger not to come is a hit. Now, the kid who is grown now, of course, has the maturity, has the distance from the fact, and has the ability to see it from a new perspective and rewrite it with not, I'm just a kid with violent parents who hit me because they don't love me and they wanted to be violent, but I was a kid that was about to be in serious danger. And in order to protect me, my parents hit me because it was the only action that could prevent the danger to happen as they know it at the time. Therefore, you rewrote the past. You did not change the fact, but you give it a new dimension. You give it a new reading. So the trauma that you had of being hit, of thinking that your parents don't love you or your parents wanted to be violent or that you were a naughty kid or everything that could code with a fact like this. Now you're able to rewrite it with love and seeing it from, I was in danger. This is the only tool they had at the time. They used it to protect me. So I was not an unloved kid. And I did not have mean parents that just wanted to hit me. I had a parent that maybe chose the wrong tool, but with a good intention that was to somehow save me. And therefore, the fact that still exists has now a different flavor. It has been rewritten with a new narrative that will allow me somehow to move forward, especially with my interaction with the parent in question, but also with every other situation that I'm encountering that will trigger back this fact. Do you see what we're trying to convey?
Yes, I do.
So this will be a good example on the parents now. The healing will be different, but it will be the same situation. The parent cannot somehow change the fact. They hit the kid. Now they've been handling the consequences of the kid hating them or having a disrupting interaction, or maybe them hating themselves from hitting the kids, or everything that you could see could happen after such a traumatic experience. And again, we took a common and easy one for everybody to understand, because of course there's different level of trauma.
Right.
But on this one, a good way for the parents to move on will be either I accept that at the time that was the only tool I had, and yes, I hurt my child, but at the same time, it prevented a bigger hurt. And I accept that this is what I chose to do, and I move on. Either you're not able to do that and you have to rewrite again the scenario. And now you're putting yourself maybe still in your shoes and looking at what tools you had at the time, and maybe be more kind to yourself, saying to yourself, I was not as prepared to be a parent as I am now at the time. The only tools I know will stop the danger was a hit. And therefore, I used it, because when I balance both this danger hurts that will come with, or the hurt that will come with my spank, I chose this one to be less damaging to my kid. And therefore, the tool that I had at the time, the only tool that I had that I chose, somehow was better for my kid. And it helps you rewrite and distance yourself from what you did. You could also place yourself in the kid's skin and understand why your kid might carry resentment or might be mad, or why it could have affected his authority issues, and understand why your interactions now are shaky, and why authority might be an issue. And then you can adjust as a parent moving forward. Because if you rewrite it, if you're now the kid and you see, oh, I'm a kid, I had no idea I was putting myself in danger. What I got was my parent hit me. They don't like me. They wanted to be violent. It made me sad. And I'm carrying this with me. And as an adult, it allows you to better take the place of your child and understand why now your relation is what it is. Understand why the authority is difficult to assure. And you can adjust and choose better tool of communication, of interaction with your kid, understanding what information they got out of the same fact. And this will be healing for you as an adult, because it will free you somehow and make you evolve and allow you to better choose set of communication, parenting, and interaction within this relationship. It would not clear the fact. This, unfortunately, is not possible. A fact is a fact in your playtime, but it can be rewritten, relieved, perceived a different way. It can unleash new tools of interaction for self interaction or for interaction to other. It can free up relationships. It can heal one. It can allow you to better understand what baggage you're carrying and what baggage you offer to the other avatar at stake. So basically, it's a tremendous booster into evolution in the game and further. Do you understand how one could start the healing journey, revisiting if they are unable to let go?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah. I believe this information is very helpful. Thank you so much for going into an
Just
example.
as loving as we are, we need to emphasize the fact that this is no easy task. this requires strength on every layer. This is bravery to want to heal a trauma, disregarding of the level of the trauma. And therefore, we would like to emphasize not only our respect and love, but also ask of everyone out there on the healing journey to start congratulating themselves on even wanting to heal, even being ready to tackle this and to somehow look at their trauma, look at the fact that happened again, and probably look at it again and again and again in order to heal themselves from it. Look at every ramification, every set of information it coded for, every set of predisposition of circumstances it created in their experience in earthen realm. Every one of you guys needs to understand how impactful it is, not only within your game, with yourself and with other, because remember, if you're changing how you integrate information, you're automatically changing how you put it back, and you're automatically changing how others are going to interact and move on to the game, but also how you're impacting yourself as a soul level, as an energetic being level, as a beingness level. This is such a major leap when you're able to tackle that within your playtime. It is such a major leap in terms of evolution, in terms of frequency, in terms of vibrational patterns. So everyone ready and willing to do such a thing is already on a path of transformation, transmutation, and therefore better alignment with self.
That makes sense. Now that you've so generously shared information regarding the trauma scenario, would you be comfortable in revealing the single sentence you would have given as a reply at first?
Yes. And this is a sentence a lot of people are going to hate because, once again, it is easy said, but once you're in it, this is such a mountain to achieve. But basically, the sentence is accept what cannot be changed as is. This is true for everything, meaning accept the fact as it is and move on. Accept the situation you're in now and move on. Accept that things are just the way they are and move on. Acceptance is such a beautiful and heavy word at the same time, and it's such a hateful word when you think about it. Because when you're in the experience, whoever is going to tell you, just accept it, the first instinct will be to slap them, probably. Smack the heck out of them. You have no idea what I'm going through. Yes, it's true. But also, you are going through this because somehow the fact that you don't accept it to be real and that it happened, you are making yourself going through it. The day you accept it as is, the day you accept that it just happened, the day you accept that the fact does exist and there is nothing you can do to erase it, then you can just move on. And then you are completely free from that fact. because you are accepting it and because you are digesting the information, integrating it, and putting back out in a way it serves you. So the simple sentence will be just accept things how they are. And we are sorry that you have to hear that, but on our end, it's so obvious. And it's such an easy shortcut for us to say that we have to say it. But we are aware that once in the game, it becomes such a heavy load to apply.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you giving me an answer to my question.
Of course.
And I do feel that quite a lot of listeners are probably intellectually totally on board with that statement.
Of course. Because the intellectual self can understand how this will be the easy way to move on. This will be the obvious thing to do. But the problem is the beingness of you that is feeling, that is coded with every imprint the fact had on you and how it shaped your reality. This is such a heavy and difficult thing to do because it requires letting go of everything that you built from that fact, of everything that you somehow are because of that fact. And therefore, applying it requires such a strength and such a faith and such a ability to let go on every level of your game and every aspect of your beingness. That is an immense task to do. So it is very difficult, but at the same time, we can guarantee that whoever managed to apply this sentence and truly accept what is such a freedom to create everything the way they want from now on, because it will not be coding anymore any of their choices, any of their interactions, whether it was self, the environment, or the self. It will not code for anything because it will just be accepted. So now they can create freely again, almost like a blank page in their canvas.
Right. Well, I hate to stop the conversation here because it feels so profound, what we're talking about right now. However, Emily asked me to stop at a certain time, and we have reached that time now.
Right.
I'm sure, though, that we will have the opportunity to go even deeper into this at another time. So for now, I thank you for being with us here today and for sharing your perspective so generously with us.
You're very welcome. We could gladly jump right where we left out anytime you wish.
I will remember that. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Us too.
Thank you, Rufus. And we now thank Rufus and all other beings involved for the information and support they have given us. Today, with much love and deep gratitude, we're asking all energies and entities to recede to where they belong. Have you ever wanted to work with higher dimensional beings yourself? Then why not join my Transformative Soul Journeys Quantum Hypnosis training? In 4 clear, easy-to-follow modules, you will learn how to guide deep explorations filled with clarity, insight, and guidance for others. For more information, visit thesouljourneys.com.